From absolutely loving Benavidez' fighting style to claiming that he'll destroy Canelo in their next fight, Deontay Wilder has given his predictions, and he thinks it'll be an easy fight for Benavidez. Wilder honestly thinks the choice is super easy. Canelo is the undisputed champion right now, but a lot of people think Benavidez will be his hardest opponent. Fans want the champion to fight his countrymen inside the squared circle more than ever, even though official talks about making it happen haven't started yet, and the champion wants to fight Benavidez again at a higher weight class. Benavidez's case got stronger when he recently won a decision over Caleb Plant, who Canelo had won against in 2021, so he could win his fourth 168-pound title. Benavidez has never lost a fight, even though he has had his title taken away twice. The first time was because he tested positive for cocaine, and the second time was because he didn't make weight. The heavyweight puncher, Wilder, says that he will stay unbeaten if his next fight is with Canelo. He told ES News that there's a super clear winner here. Since Canelo was so small, David should easily win that match. He thinks that the Mexican monster will quickly wear him out. And his recent win over Caleb has just made him more ruthless than before. But this is all speculation, right? We can't really be sure until the fight happens. Wilder does make a good point, and while Canelo is about 6 inches shorter than Benavidez, he's fought with much bigger athletes before. When he fights John Ryder of the UK in Mexico in May, the pound-for-pound king will be back in the ring for the first time in 12 years. Honestly, Benavidez is on cloud 9 after his impressive win, but it looks like he'll have to defend his mandatory position instead of fighting for the belts next, especially since Canelo's thinking about fighting Bivol again later in the year. But there's one fact that we can't deny. Benavidez absolutely destroyed Plant. This just shows how good he's gotten. The Mexican monster beat Plant at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, and it was easily the biggest win of his career. Plant's jab and ability to move around the big 22 by 22-foot ring gave him an early edge, but the monster was able to get to him more than once. He beat Plant by scores of 115 to 113, 116 to 112, and 117 to 111 in the super middleweight fight. He did this by putting constant pressure on his opponent in the second half of the fight. What's even better for the fighter is that ESPN has ranked him at number 2 in the super middleweight division. Once he won that fight, he knew it was time to take things to the next level, and that's when he challenged Alvarez. Since this fight's still undecided, the two fighters have other matches to win. Alvarez will fight John Ryder on May 6th in Mexico to defend his 4 super middleweight titles. Plus, he also fights every year on the weekend of September 16th, which is Mexican Independence Day. But Benavidez has some plans too. Besides his fight with Canelo, he wants a rematch with Benavidez, who beat Alvarez in May. The monster thinks that a rematch with Bivol would be the most important thing to look forward to in September. It's also fun to think about the fact that they both fought Plant, and they both defeated him. In his fight with Benavidez, he played it pretty smart, and the match had fans on the edge of their seats, with Plant being ESPN's third-ranked middleweight fighter. It's pretty impressive that both Canelo and David fought him and won. Now, Benavidez will have to wait until May to find out if he gets to fight Alvarez or Ryder, two of boxing's most popular fighters. He's been a super middleweight champion twice, but has lost the title both times. The boxing world is divided between the two, and another legend made his predictions about the match too. Well, Eddie Hearn thinks Canelo will win. Fans and Benavidez himself may think that a fight with Canelo would be a victory for him, but the promoter Hearn doesn't agree. Alvarez is ready to fight anyone. I mean, he knocked out Plant in their match. At 175 pounds, Canelo would have an easier time fighting Benavidez than Bivol. There's no doubt that it would be a great fight, but Hearn is leaning more towards Canelo. When Canelo fights John Ryder on May 6th, the promoter said he'd try to set up a rematch with Bivol for September, since he's been saying that for ages. Plus, their contract says that this is how the rematch must be done. So we're pretty close to having that fight. Hearn also talked about the Monster's next fights. Well, he'll probably be fighting David Morrell, Jermall Charlo, and Demetrius Andrade in the next 3 months. Boxing News 24 thought that Hearn might not want to book a fight between Benavidez and Canelo, since Canelo only fights on the streaming service DAZN, and David only fights on Showtime. The drama is never ending, right? Like I said before, the entire boxing world is divided. This makes sense though. Both the fighters are super amazing. I mean, just look at Canelo's stats. He's been in 62 fights, with a record of 58-2-2 and 39 knockouts. He's fought and beaten some of the best boxers of his generation, and has won titles in 4 different weight classes. He's also in the top 5 of most pound-for-pound lists of boxers right now. The Mexican has won fights against some big names, like Gennady Golovkin, Erislandy Lara, Sergey Kovalev, Austin Trout, and Sugar Shane Mosley. Not only that, but he has fought some Hall of Famers too, like Floyd Mayweather Jr. Without a doubt, Alvarez is one of the best boxers in the world right now. Canelo has had a great career so far, and if he retired today, he would go straight into the Hall of Fame. But there are some drawbacks too. Most of his opponents were either not as good as him or not very good overall. The Hall of Famers that he fought weren't at their prime anymore. Over the course of his career, he's mostly beaten good opponents instead of top-level ones. Beating tough opponents like Alfonso Gomez, as well as a smaller, glassy-jawed Amir Khan, are important wins, but they don't stand out as career highlights. Yep, Canelo has trouble when he fights top-level fighters, like how he had a lot of trouble with Lara. And many people think the split decision win for Canelo was unfair. And let's not forget how Mayweather beat him pretty easily. And Austin Trout gave him a hard time until the end of the fight. Not to mention, Benavidez had some impressive stats too. He just won the biggest match of his career against Plant. He finally found out that his style of fighting, which puts pressure on the opponent first, is more than enough to beat a fighter who's made a living by rarely getting hit. At this point in his career, Benavidez is still unbeaten. He's won all 27 of his fights so far, and 23 of them were won by knockout. He had 2 chances to win the world title, but he didn't do well enough either time. Also, just look at how amazing he was against his match with David Lemieux. It was brutal. Benavidez threw a series of hard blows at his experienced opponent, who was quickly knocked out and hurt. On national TV, the Mexican Monster showed why he's one of the most powerful fighters in the sport. With all of these things in mind, it makes sense that everyone is so excited about this match. While it hasn't been confirmed yet, the biggest figures in the sport can't help but give their 2 cents to the match too. Well, that's all I have for Deontay Wilder's predictions on the Canelo vs. Benavidez fight.